Nice to see you all again. Nice of you to come to Dhammaloka, even though we have this COVID situation. One of the things I always find is that when the world goes wrong and the world goes funny, actually spiritual life becomes more powerful and more useful, and more we can start to understand why we have a spiritual life, because the world kind of going the wrong way, and then we have makes more sense to come to Dhammaloka in some ways. So it's great to be here. It's great to kind of focus on the spiritual side of existence. So let's start, as usual, by doing some meditation together. So sit nicely and comfortably, and let's get started here. And the first part of meditation is always about establishing a degree of mindfulness, or allowing mindfulness to arise, if you like. And very often it's just a matter of just sitting back and just waiting patiently, allowing the world to fade into the background, and allowing the presence of the mind to arise by itself. And as you carry on, be careful to let go properly of the past and the future. Remember, there's nothing really interesting in the future. It's just more of the same, going on and on, potentially forever. If you want to escape that trap of the present world, there's only one place to go inside, into the world of bliss and peace within. That is the escape from the troublesome world outside. And as you gradually abandon the distractions of the future and the past, you can feel yourself slowly coming into the present. And just notice the delight of being in the present. It's as if you're becoming alive, you're feeling what is going on. Notice every stage on the path, when things are improving, why it is delightful and how it is delightful. And then you will incline towards those states in the future. what a wonderful thing it is that we have this beautiful place of peace and sanity in the world, right here in the heart of Perth. What a marvelous thing that is. And sometimes maybe just to end off the meditation, send a few thoughts of compassion and metta to all the beings in the world who are suffering. So many problems going on everywhere. It means that there is also a lot of suffering in the world. May all the beings out there, may you also find the kind of refuge we have right here. May you find peace and happiness. Okay, so coming close to the end of the meditation, before we come to the end, just take a few moments to reflect on the progress you have made and why you have got where you have got. If you're feeling a bit more peaceful now, ask yourself why that is the case. Okay, that's the end of the meditation, so please sit comfortably. Okay, everyone, so nice to see you all again. And we're going to start tonight's Dhamma talk. I'm going to talk about the Buddha's approach to meditation practice. And the reason for that is very simply that we are doing a course, as you heard before, a workshop on Satipatthana practice. And that means that we're talking about all of these issues right now anyway. So it's good to kind of talk about that while these topics are fresh in mind. And there's so many interesting things that come up when you do a workshop like that. Little things that actually turn out to be very significant for meditation practice. How to think about meditation in the right way, so that we don't waste time and we don't do things that are actually contrary to the Buddhist teachings. And one of the things that really kind of stand out when I do this sort of course and workshop is that how important it is to always go back to the teachings of the Buddha. Yeah, the suttas are the word of the Buddha, right? The suttas are so rich. There's so much information in there. If you know how to kind of read them in a certain way, if you know that every word matters, if you know how to interpret these things because you have a broad understanding of the suttas in general, there's so much information and there's such richness in these texts. And it's just a shame that sometimes we don't read them carefully enough to be able to take away all the very valuable advice that actually is found there. And if you look at the world of meditation, often it's very hard to find your way, to navigate this world of meditation, because there are so many different teachers. Teacher A teaches like this, teacher B teaches meditation like that, teacher C teaches like this, Ajahn Brahm, we know that Ajahn Brahm is right, so he teaches like that. And this is, of course, if you are a disciple of Ajahn Brahm, you tend to assume that Ajahn Brahm is right. But even with someone like Ajahn Brahm, it's good to check against the Buddha. And then if it turns out that it kind of checks out, which usually it does with Ajahn Brahm, then you gain more confidence, which obviously is very useful as well. And sometimes it's so confusing. Who is right? Are they all right? Are some of them right? Are none of them right? What is going on here? How do we decide? Well, there's only one way to really decide. And that is going back to the word of the Buddha. This is one of the reasons why the word of the Buddha is such a treasure. The Dhamma is such a marvelous thing, because it stabilizes Buddhism. It gives us access to the gold standard of what Buddhism really is about. So it's extraordinarily useful to have these teachings. And that's why I really enjoy these workshops. But sometimes the workshops get really technical, and I may lose many people if I use too many Pali words. I enjoy Pali words, but that's because I like translation and this kind of things. But so I thought it might be nice to also extract some of the valuable guidelines in kind of a single talk like tonight. And one of the things that is very significant understanding Buddhist meditation, so this is really about what we call Satipatthana in Pali. Satipatthana means something like the focuses of mindfulness, the applications of mindfulness. There's various translations, the establishings of mindfulness, these kind of things. And one of the things that is important when you start reading the suttas is to understand the purpose of Satipatthana. Why are we doing this? And of course, there's all kind of technical answers to that question, because the Buddhist path is laid out very systematically. The Satipatthana is here, the next stage comes there, and kind of ding, 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 and everything falls into place. The problem with technical answers to this question, actually technical answers are very important, of course, but the problem is that they're not all that inspiring necessarily. It's kind of intellectual, it's systematizing things. It doesn't really get to the heart of things. It doesn't get to the feeling, emotional state of things. And what drives human beings is feelings, it's emotions. Logic, we tend to think we are logical, but logic usually works in the service of the emotions. First we feel good, and then we think, okay, I better find a logical explanation for that, otherwise no one's going to believe me. Actually, we don't even think that. That's just how we operate. So what is the kind of feeling purpose of mindfulness or meditation? And what the feeling purpose is that when you are mindful, you feel so much better about the world. It's not just to gain insight or gain some kind of ability to function better. It actually feels good to be mindful. And please take notice of that in your meditation practice. When the past and the future start to die down, and you start to feel the present moment. Yeah, sometimes maybe you feel a bit of sloth and torpor, you fall asleep, so you don't feel so much. Other times maybe a bit restless, but sometimes I'm sure your meditation kind of hits that beautiful note where it's just right, and mindfulness starts to arise. Notice the beauty of that. It's like you're waking to reality, a feeling of being alive in an entirely new way. And very often, if you have that mindfulness, very often a sense of gladness and joy also comes with that at the same time. These are very beautiful states of mind. And if we notice the beauty of these things, they become far more powerful because we get drawn towards them. And it's easier to access that mindfulness in the future if you're drawn towards it, because your mind leaps towards it when it has a chance. So this is kind of the purpose in one way. Yeah? This is the purpose which should draw you into this. The purpose is much more than that. The purpose is really the entire going all the way to the end of the Buddhist path. But that's more technical. Also feel right here and now the joy, the happiness, the contentment, the satisfaction that comes from states like mindfulness. But I want to come back to some of the lessons that we find in the suttas about how meditation practice and how mindfulness in particular, how it actually works. And what are some of the hints on how to do this in a way that it gives more, get more value for each breath, so to speak. Yeah, you get more out of these things. And one of the first thing that occurs to me very often when we talk about these things is that very often there seems to be this idea in Buddhist circles that mindfulness begets mindfulness. If you are mindful, consistently all the time, that makes you more mindful in the future. So if I really try to be mindful, then mindfulness will grow, because of that. And the idea is a bit like, it's as if mindfulness is like a muscle, The muscle of mindfulness, like if you train a muscle, obviously a muscle will grow and become strong as a consequence of training your muscles. That's how a muscle works. But does mindfulness work like a muscle? Does it become strong merely by the fact that you try to be mindful, that you use this? Is that how it works? It's an interesting question, because this is kind of one of the assumptions very often in meditation circles, and it's really worthwhile investigating that. And the answer is, and this is one of the things that you learn from someone like Ajahn Brahmali, and of course then you learn it from the suttas, you learn it from your own experience after a while, is that if you try too hard to be mindful, it has almost the opposite effect. I'm going to be mindful. Be present, don't think about the past. And if you try too hard, it exhausts you. After a long day of being mindful, you're kind of ready to crash out because you're just so exhausted from being mindful all the time. That's kind of counterproductive, isn't it? It's supposed to give rise to more mindfulness. Very often, trying too hard to be mindful has the reverse effect than actually what it's supposed to have. So don't take these things, just what you hear, kind of in Buddhist circles, don't take it on board too quickly. Have a little bit of kind of look at things a bit more deeply and see what is going on. So I say, of course, if you are able to be mindful in a more gentle way, it will have a positive effect. But even then, it is not quite clear. So this is the first thing. It often can easily backfire if you get it wrong. But there's an even better reason to think that this doesn't work. And that other reason is that the Buddha never says that if you are mindful, that begets more mindfulness. Mindfulness begets mindfulness, not actually found in the suttas. In the suttas, in the word of the Buddha, there are very different things that lead to mindfulness, but not mindfulness itself. There's heaps of things there, but not mindfulness itself. So what are the things that the Buddha says gives rise to mindfulness? I've talked about this here before. I'm sure many of you know this already, but the most obvious thing is morality, virtue, kindness. I always say, if there's one thing you should focus on the Buddhist path, it's kindness, because that is kind of the foundation for everything else, including mindfulness itself. So if you really want to be mindful, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, be understanding, look after yourself and other people, by body, our actions in the world, through our speech, which is often quite difficult to, rein in and make sure we only say the right things. Everyone slips up every now and again, and that's okay. But also in mind. in mind itself? Are you able to have a sense of loving kindness and compassion for the people around you generally during the day? This is the holy grail of mindfulness. If you can do that, I guarantee you, you will become mindful. This is exactly what the Noble Eightfold Path is about. Yeah, all the virtue factors come first: right speech, right action, right livelihood. Then right effort, which is all about purifying the mind. Then comes right mindfulness. There's a reason for that. The early factors are the cause, they are the condition, they are the source that enable you to access right mindfulness later. Yeah, so virtue, this is the cause, not mindfulness is not the cause for mindfulness. Virtue, kindness, goodness, that is the cause for mindfulness. And there's another one, and that is, interestingly enough, it's right view. Yeah, right view or straight view, thinking about the world in the right way, that too is a cause for mindfulness. Why is that? And I will give you an example. I think it kind of becomes kind of obvious that the reason why we are not mindful very often is because our mind has desires for all kind of things. Yeah, when you think about things in your meditation, it's because there's some desire underlying that thinking, which takes you to these places. You're thinking about your future, you've got to resolve certain problems, or you're thinking about, I don't know if you had dinner, hopefully you had, if you haven't had dinner already, you might think about dinner later on. I don't know how you, but it's going to be very late dinner, but whatever. And yeah, so we're thinking about things. Why? It comes from desire. You almost always, actually always, the thinking that we have. Some kind of desire somewhere. So one of the things about right view is that it reduces our desires. And one very beautiful little sutta that I've been reading out recently on various places is a sutta called the Atta Danda Sutta, which means the taking up of weapons or the taking up of sticks or violence or something like that. And the Atta Danda Sutta is one of these autobiographical suttas where the Buddha talks about what made him become a monk. Yeah, before he was a monk, he was still living the household life like all of us have, yeah? And then becoming a monk. What made the Buddha become monk? Well, obviously, it was some kind of right view. Yeah, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't become a monk. Yeah? What was that right view? And this is beautiful verses. I probably can't remember them now, but there was something about, where he looks at the world and he says the world is floundering like a fish in a small puddle. Yeah, fish in a small puddle, floundering, kind of flapping about, not really knowing what to do. The fish is kind of doomed in that little puddle. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to escape. The world is like a fish in a puddle. Yeah, we are all on this little earth together. And the earth is always becoming smaller. We're affecting each other all the time, around this globe. And then there's climate change. The kind of the gases that let out on the opposite side of the planet are going to affect us right here in Perth. Everything is so interconnected with the news and everything. There's no escaping. And the Buddha says, even though we are floundering like the fish in water, still we are quarreling and arguing with each other, using violence against each other. Kind of really fitting right now, seeing the war is kind of being started in Europe between Russia and Ukraine. People are mad. Who wants to have war in this world? War is so much suffering. Kind of craziness. But this is what people do. And the Buddha says, when I saw that we live in this tiny world together, and we keep on taking up weapons and being violent towards each other, always being in aggression, always having these problems, either within the family or within the city, within the Buddha society, not so often in the Buddha society, fortunately. Within any kind of grouping of people, there's always a little bit of conflict. Yeah, it's very hard to avoid that conflict entirely. Nation between nation, tribe between tribe, family between family, within families sometimes themselves. This is the human condition. You cannot really avoid it. And when the Buddha saw that, he realized, I got to give up this world. I got to find somewhere else. That else, somewhere else, is within. There is no end to this in the world itself. We've been trying for millennia to create the perfect society through this ism, through that ism. We cannot create the perfect society without, because the Buddha says there is a dart stuck in our heart. And the dart stuck in your heart is the dart of craving. And craving and desire is what drives all these problems in the world. So in a sense, it is a bit like sometimes you give up a little bit on that world. You reduce your desire for the world to be a beautiful, perfect place. You start to realize maybe it is impossible. And when you see that, and you know that there is happiness to be found within, you turn within instead. You practice the spiritual path. Right view leads to mindfulness. Right view leads to your ability to practice meditation right here and right now. Right view and morality together, supporting each other, enable meditation, satipatthana, to happen. These are the causes, these are the conditions that enable mindfulness and meditation, not mindfulness itself. It's kind of radical. Yeah, this is really radical. Why is it so radical? Well, one of the reasons why it is so radical, I will now draw out a bit more of the practical implication of this. Well, there's a lot of practical implications there already, but I will draw out a few more. Well, one of the reasons why this is radical is because it is very common in the Buddhist circles to think of meditation as something we do in daily life. Yeah. Be mindful in daily life. Wash your dishes mindfully. Mindful eating. Yeah? You hear about mindful eating. Okay, satipatthana while you're eating. Mindful walking back and forth. Mindful going to the toilet. Mindful going to the toilet, okay. That's actually... And all of these things, where do they come from? Well, actually, in a certain way, they come from the suttas. Because in the Satipatthana Sutta, I'm talking about Satipatthana now, which is all about mindfulness, one of the kind of exercises, if you like, or one of the ways of practicing Satipatthana is precisely said to be you're mindful while going forward, going back, eating and drinking, sitting and sleeping and waking and talking and being silent. And there's a whole list, yeah, including going to the toilet is actually included there. That's why I said that. That is where it is taken from her. But actually, and this is kind of the point of this workshop we have been doing, when you look very carefully at the suttas, you notice, and it becomes quite clear, that it doesn't really belong under the aspect of meditation. It belongs earlier on in the path leading up to meditation. And once you see that, you realize that this whole idea of meditation in daily life is actually misplaced. There is no point in just being mindful for its own sake. Yeah, in other words, the idea that mindfulness gives rise to more mindfulness later on, that doesn't work. Mindfulness in its own right in this way is not really part of Buddhist meditation. And this is a radical claim because, it disagrees with what you often hear in meditation circles. So what then should we do in daily life if we shouldn't be mindful? Yeah, this is kind of the second question that arises. If we shouldn't just go around being mindful of everything, what should we do? And the answer is that the Buddha says that things that, remember, lead to meditation is virtue. So what we should do in daily life, we should try to have enough mindfulness, enough clarity about how we live, that we are aware of how we live. How am I treating the people around me? How am I speaking? Am I speaking with gentleness and kindness? All of these kind of things. That is the kind of awareness and mindfulness that is required. It is mindfulness directed to our conduct. Then it becomes powerful because then you're actually fulfilling one of the things that do give rise to mindfulness, which is kindness. Most importantly of all, you are mindful of the state of your mind. Yeah, what is my mind like? Okay, I'm getting a bit upset. Okay, chillax, relax, stand back. Yeah, don't think about what are the good qualities of this person. Yeah, one of the nice things that happened the other day. I was sitting in my kuti. Kuti is my little hut at Bodhinana Monastery. If you haven't been to Bodhinana Monastery, come down, check out our kutis. Yeah, they're really cool. Little boxes. My kuti is 7.2 square meters. When the kuti is so small, you know exactly how large it is. Yeah, 7.2 square meters. So you can almost reach across the walls. It is that small. So it's the best place you can possibly imagine to live. Yeah, almost no cleaning, right? Really, really good. It's really easy to clean. Don't need anyone to kind of help you out or anything like that. And the best thing about my kuti is that it's secluded. Yeah, it's away. It's not like you have a house next door. When I'm in my kuti, I can't see anyone. It's like really kind of in the bush, but beautiful bush. The only neighbors I have are kangaroos and that kind of thing. The odd tick, of course, but we can deal with that after a while. Even ticks we can have compassion for. So I was sitting in my kuti, and I have a desk in my kuti, a beautiful desk that was made by one of the other monks before. Not all monks have desks, but I have a desk because I do quite a lot of kind of various desk-related work, so I have a desk in my kuti. And I was sitting back and I was looking at my desk. And when I looked at my desk, I looked at some of the items there, and there's not that much there. There's a little bit more than there should be probably, but there's not that much there. But two of the items caught my mind. And one of the items was a little, like a mug. Not a mug, but like one of these insulated cups. A cup that you drink hot beverages from. And I thought, wow, this is one of the things I use the most. I use this cup all the time. This is where I drink my coffee. I'm one of these coffee addicts. I drink coffee from this cup every day. What a marvelous thing it is that I have actually been given this cup by somebody. And then I looked at my desk and I saw another thing on the other side of my desk. And that was a little flashlight. And I realized that flashlight and that cup had been given to me by the same person. And I thought, wow, isn't that wonderful? Here is someone who is so careful, so generous, knowing the requirements of the monks, trying their very best to do acts of kindness, do something supportive. And it was just such a beautiful moment when I realized that. I haven't really connected those things before. And I felt, wow, what a beautiful thing. And this is kind of the life we want to live. This is kind of where mindfulness arises from. These beautiful acts that we do in our daily life, of kindness, of supporting people. That is where it comes from. That is the kind of mindfulness that is required. Seeing what are the good things in life. So this is already quite radical. So forget about being mindful all the time. Know that mindfulness has to have a purpose. Purpose of mindfulness should be kindness. So if this is not what mindfulness is about, well then mindfulness is obviously about meditation practice. And if meditation practice, then well, what kind of meditation practice are we talking about? Well, first of all, we're talking about real meditation practice. Meditation where we sit down, we cross our legs, and we do some kind of formal act of meditation. This is kind of what meditation means. But what exactly is it that we do in that meditation? And very often in mindfulness circles, the thing that we are said to be doing is vipassana practice, insight meditation. So is satipatthana, is that about vipassana? Is that the right way of thinking about it? What is vipassana anyway? And one way of thinking about vipassana is to think about it as insight. Another way that I think about it is more like clear seeing, because clear seeing is more broad and it involves all of these kind of things. Is that what satipatthana practice is about? And the answer is not really. Or maybe that is part of it, but it's much more than that. And one of the things that you find out, again, when you read these suttas carefully, is that satipatthana and meditation is about two things. It has two results. Those results are calm and clear seeing, or calm and insight. These are two aspects that always go together. And the main aspect, actually, in this dual thing is actually the calm side, because there's a calm side that eventually leads you to very deep states of meditation. So this is really what we are looking at. And this is very fascinating, because very often the idea that there is different kinds of meditation practice, calm on the one hand and insight or clear seeing on the other, this does not fit with how things are taught in the suttas. What you find in the suttas is in fact the exact opposite. What you find is that calm and insight, calm and clear seeing, they're not actually meditation practices at all. What they are outcomes of meditation practice. And they are outcomes that always come together. When you practice meditation in the right way, you always get both calm and insight. Why is that? Well, the reason is because when you are calm, you tend to see clearly. Yeah? When you tend to see clearly, you tend to be calm. Yeah? These are two sides of exactly the same thing. Yeah? Insight comes when you're peaceful. When you are peaceful, that's when you have insight. When you have insight, you tend to be calm afterwards. These things build up together. They cannot really be divided. So meditation practice has both of these factors being built up together as you practice meditation. It is not one or the other. You cannot say that Satipatthana practice, meditation, is about insight. These things are indivisible. They always build up together. So how exactly does this work? How do we, what do we do when we practice meditation so that it builds up to these things? Yeah? And very often what we do when we practice meditation is that we observe something. Yeah? Typically you will observe something like the breath maybe, or you observe some kind of other object in your meditation practice. Yeah? This is basically what meditation is about. And very often the idea in the Buddhist circle is that all you have to do is observe. And everything that we're trying to achieve on the Buddhist path comes out of that direct observation of phenomena. Yeah, so just observe. Just be with what is going on, and from that comes all the calm, all the insight that you can expect on the Buddhist path. This is kind of a very common way of thinking about meditation practice. And unfortunately, it is not the full truth. It's part of the truth, but not the full truth. If you imagine there are certain meditation subjects like we do here, for example, you practice the mindfulness of breathing. And if you practice the mindfulness of breathing, of course, then you are just observing. You're hanging out with the breath. Yeah, that is a pure observation exercise. You don't do anything else. And the more you hang out with the breath, and the more you're able to stay with it, the calmer you become, the more clear seeing you have. So in that case, obviously, it works in that way. But let's say that you do body contemplation. Yeah, this is kind of one of the classical Satipatthana subjects where you focus on the body and you look at the body, and you can do that in different ways. You can take the body apart, look at the various parts of it. It's called the contemplation of the 31 parts of the body. Or you can look at the body as if it is elements, yeah, the earth element, the water, the air, heat element, these kind of things. But these exercises are not exercises of observation, because you cannot observe your liver. Yeah, okay, liver, you know it's there. Are you there? I guess you are in there somewhere. You got to better be there, otherwise I'm in serious trouble. So you know it's in there. Yeah, and you may have seen a chart of the body. Okay, the various parts in various ways. Skeleton, okay, skeleton. Skull is in here. Are you there, skull? Speak? No, it doesn't want to. Okay, this is a way to make it speak. Yeah, that's a ding, ding, ding. Talk back. So you know it's all there, but of course it is a exercise in imagination and also recollection of memory. Yeah, when you do the contemplation of the 31 parts of the body, so memory and imagination is also part of Satipatthana practice. This is also how we do these exercises. We can't do it without that. So now we can see we're expanding out. It's not just about observation. Yeah? This is actually fundamentally important because this is how very often meditation practice is taught. We have to expand this out. Even more importantly, meditation is also about what I would call inference or deduction, whereby you have the bare data through your meditation practice, and then you infer from that to expand your understanding. So, for example, in the present moment, you may be able to observe the breath, or you may be able to observe, whatever is happening here and now. But to have real insight, you have to expand that and to understand that this not only applies to the present, also applies to the future, it also applies to the past. This is called inference, where you expand what you are seeing to other instances that are not immediately visible. Or, if I have this body, yeah, legs, fingers, if other people probably have it too, right? So we all basically have the same kind of body, yeah? And that is also a kind of an inference. We don't know that, but once you kind of look at your own body, you can assume that other people have the same. This is called inferential knowledge. Knowledge that comes from inference. It expands out the whole idea of meditation, makes it much broader than mere observation. So why does this matter? And I'll give you an example of why it matters and why it is really significant. So one of the kind of standard ways of meditation that we are taught in Buddhism is the idea that you have to watch the pain in the body. You can go on a meditation retreat and you can say, I got so much pain, what should I do? Watch the pain. This is very standard meditation instruction on meditation retreats around the world. One of the few exceptions to that, Ajahn Brahmali is a big-time exception to that one. Yeah, he does not believe in pain meditation. He believes in happiness, joy, ecstasy, bliss meditation. That's what he's famous for. So why do we hear this so often, that we have to watch pain in the body? And before I go to that, I should say it often has disastrous results. I know so many people who have destroyed ligaments in their knees, who have destroyed monks, especially monastics, because if you do this all the time, have experienced lots of pain, eventually the joints of the body get completely destroyed. I know lay people who have been on these meditation retreats and they said, I've never in my life felt so uncomfortable as I did on this blooming meditation retreat. Meditation is bad, meditation is evil, it just leads to pain and suffering. Who wants to meditate, for goodness sake? It's crazy. I'm never ever in my entire life am I going to meditate again. This is what people have said to me, quite literally. I thought, whoa, okay. I said, relax, okay. Try out Ajahn Brahmali. Ajahn Brahmali is pretty cool. He doesn't believe in pain. Check him out before you throw everything out with the bath water. No, this is it. I'm finished with meditation. Don't want to hear about Ajahn Brahmali. I've had it. Okay. This is what I heard firsthand, and I thought, this is terrible. Yeah, the whole purpose of the spiritual path is to add value to our lives, to make it something more, to have a place where we can find a refuge when we have suffering, when the bombs are falling in Kiev, when the COVID virus is kind of going around the world, when climate change is kind of wreaking havoc with everything, when the large powers in the world are clashing, or whatever. We need a place to find some kind of refuge. That is here. This is the whole purpose of the spiritual path. We need to use this path in a skillful way that it actually provides the refuge it is supposed to be. Otherwise, we're destroying something so beautiful. So this is the problem with pain meditation. It's actually a very, very significant problem. And of course, if you know the first thing about the Buddhist teachings, you know that the very first thing the Buddha said was the middle way here. Don't torture the body here. Don't indulge too much either, but certainly don't torture the body. I would say if you're going to go wrong, indulge a little bit extra instead, That's not going to hurt you that much, but torturing actually could really end up hurting you a lot. So that's the first teaching of the Buddha, and it's the first thing that we forget. Maybe because it's so long ago, it's the first teaching, it's the longest ago. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure if that really works as an idea. So it is very, very problematic. So why is it like that? And the reason why we think like this is that, again, if you read the Satipatthana Sutta, the main sutta that almost everyone uses to explain meditation practice, in there you have a section called the Vedana-anupassana. Vedana means like feelings, or sensations in the body. Anupassana is contemplation, so contemplation of feelings. And if you read that section, it says you contemplate happy, pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and neutral feelings. You contemplate worldly, or sensory pleasant feelings, sensory unpleasant feelings. By sensory, I mean anything related to the five senses. Sensory neutral feelings. And then you have spiritual pleasant feelings, spiritual unpleasant feelings. That's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm not going to talk about that tonight. That is to make sure, that's just an advertisement for the next talk. I'm going to talk about spiritual unpleasant feelings, just to excite you about the next talk coming up. Actually, I probably won't talk about it. The last one is neutral spiritual feelings. But you will notice there that this text says specifically that you have to contemplate sensory unpleasant feelings. Well, what are sensory unpleasant feelings? pain in the body. There's sensory unpleasant feelings. Watch it. Yeah, it says in the Satipatthana Sutta, you must watch those feelings. Actually, it is wrong. Yeah, it doesn't actually mean that. And very interestingly, if you look at the Satipatthana and meditation from another point of view, from the point of view of mindfulness of breathing, because mindfulness of breathing also talks about contemplation of feeling. And what you find there is that you contemplate rapture. Rapture is like joy. You contemplate bliss, sukha. You contemplate these emotional experiences, and then you calm these emotional experiences of bliss and rapture. It's all about happiness. And then the Buddha says, well, this way of contemplating joy and happiness, going with the breath, that fulfills the whole meditation process of watching feelings. It's all you have to do. So what's going on here? One place it says just focus on the bliss, the other one says focus on the pain. What is going on? How can these be the same? The Buddha says they are the same. How is that possible? And this is where this comes in, what I was saying before. Meditation is not just about observing directly. Meditation is also about recalling. It's about memory. It's about inference. It's about understanding things, not through necessarily direct experience, but understanding it through more of a bird's eye view, because you have an overview of what is going on. So when you come to the blissful feelings of meditation, what you find is that, of course, the pain is no longer there. The body has maybe even disappeared in this very profound states of meditation. And what that means is that you can understand the painful feeling not by observing it, but by its absence. Because absence is the most powerful insight you can have when something is completely gone. Remember what we're trying to understand in Buddhism. We have what we call the three characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Three characteristics of existence. And these are the things that we focus on when we talk about insight or understanding or clear seeing. What is the best way to understand impermanence? Well, if you watch it, you can kind of see it coming and going. But if it's completely gone, that is absolute impermanence. The complete ending of a phenomena is the most powerful insight into impermanence that you can have. Is also an insight into suffering, because when the suffering is completely gone, you think, wow, now I understand how painful those painful feelings actually were. I thought I could deal with them, but once they are gone and all you have is, then you really fully understand the suffering or the pain of that experience. And also, you understand non-self, because it's gone. You no longer have access to it. And that lack of access means that it is non-self. It's got nothing to do with you, because you are still here, it's completely gone, and you're fine. So this is actually not only do you not have to watch the pain, it is not even the best way to understand and to get insight into pain. Far more powerful way to get insight into pain is to look at it in retrospect through enjoying the joy and the bliss and the happiness of meditation. Isn't that good news? You should be jumping up and down now, Yay, wow, this is the most wonderful thing I have learned all day. Because, I don't know, some of you may never be aware that these are teachings that are taught commonly in the Buddhist world, but some of you will be aware of that, and you will think, wow, Because to me, this is a very important point, and it makes a spiritual life so much more worthwhile. It makes it so much more joyful, so much more happy. It makes it a real refuge that we can go to when we don't have to go through all of these painful things on the path to achieving something worthwhile. I think there's something deep in the human psyche. We think that pain is gain. We think that when we kind of mortify the flesh, the evil flesh, when the flesh feels pain, then the spirit is released. Mortify the flesh, maximum pain, maximum gain. Actually, it doesn't work like that, says the Buddha. So, but it's something psychological. If you look at religious experiences around the world, it is very common, this idea of mortifying the body, creating pain in the body. Yeah, somehow that release the spirit or the soul or the mind or whatever it is, depending on what kind of religion you're holding on to. You see that in Christianity, you see it in Islam, you see it in Hinduism, and lo and behold, you see it in Buddhism as well. Yeah. And this is problematic, especially since the Buddha warned us precisely against this. So, yeah, very practical ideas about Buddhist teachings, about meditation practice specifically. One of the things I was just saying now is that when you go to the Mindfulness of Breathing Sutta, which also really is about Satipatthana practice, how to fulfill Satipatthana, you can get some understanding of things like contemplation of feelings that otherwise you would not. So actually, the whole idea of mindfulness of breathing is very interesting here. And according to the sutta, mindfulness of breathing is all you have to do. Mindfulness of breathing fulfills all the 4 satipatthanas. There are 4 satipatthanas, 4 applications of mindfulness: body, feeling, mind, and principles, or something like that. 4 dhammas is the last one. 4. All of those are fulfilled merely by watching the breath. And again, this is also quite radical, because if you read the Satipatthana Sutta, it starts off, and all it tells you there is that, you watch the breath is only connected with body contemplation. It doesn't talk about the breath after that. So many people think, okay, I'll just stick with the breath, doing body contemplation, and then when I go to feelings, it's got nothing to do with breath. Well, that's wrong, because when you come to the feeling section of Satipatthana, it doesn't say how you're supposed to do it. It doesn't give you a context. It doesn't talk about the meditation object. All it says is that you're supposed to contemplate feelings. And the only place where you actually find that context is in the Mindfulness of Breathing Sutta, Anapanasati. The context is, watch the breath. And when you watch the breath, feelings will arise. And because feelings arise while you're watching a breath, you're doing feeling contemplation right there. The breath contemplation is the context. So the Buddha really gives some very powerful pointers that what we should be doing is breath meditation, not just focusing on the body without context, but in the context of a larger or a specific way to kind of anchor you to mindfulness through the breath. That is how we do the whole thing here. So mindfulness of breathing is really the whole path of Satipatthana meditation. It's all you have to do. Can you do it in other ways? Are there some additions to that? Yes, there are some additions to that. But this is the exercise the Buddha recommends to fulfill this. So I say that is what we should be doing here. And then, of course, as you do the mindfulness of breathing, what is the purpose of mindfulness of breathing? Well, in the suttas, the mindfulness of breathing often is said to lead to samadhi. Samadhi is the deep stillness of the mind, the profound bliss, the profound peace you can attain by practicing meditation in a good way. And so Satipatthana leads to, mindfulness of breathing leads to samadhi. That must mean that Satipatthana leads to samadhi. But most people say Satipatthana leads to insight. Well, actually, it is true that Satipatthana leads to samadhi. This is one of the things I've been pointing out during this course on Satipatthana, is that in the suttas, Satipatthana always leads to samadhi, always leads to the stillness of the mind. This is the purpose of Satipatthana. This is the main purpose of Satipatthana. So how does it do that? I say mindfulness of breathing. So does that mean that all we do is calming, no insight? Actually, no, it doesn't even mean that. Because remember, I said before, samatha, vipassana, calm and insight always go together. So you use your right view, you use the wise reflection about reality, you contemplate your meditation practice. This is why I like to do at the end of every meditation, think back. What happened during the meditation? How does it work? That is an aspect of that inquiry into how the mind and how the meditation works. So that you still do both vipassana and samatha, because they are the outcomes of meditation. But the purpose of both the vipassana and samatha is samadhi. Even vipassana has the purpose of samadhi, not deep insight into the nature of reality. Why? Because deep insight into the nature of reality is actually impossible without samadhi. Samadhi is the cause for seeing things in accordance with reality. So as we do the mindfulness of breathing, we're fulfilling satipatthana meditation practice, achieving the samadhi, which actually is the purpose of all of these practices. The whole satipatthana is geared towards achieving samadhi and stillness of the mind. And then what happens? Well, this is where finally satipatthana starts to become a little bit different. Once you achieve samadhi, and if some of you here have achieved samadhi, then marvelous, because it means you've gone a long way on this Buddhist path already. But if you do achieve samadhi, that is where deep insight can happen. And that is where you can say the extended version of satipatthana, which actually is aimed at deep insight. This is where it is to be found. Because based on that deep stillness of the mind, insight into the nature of reality becomes possible. And this is where satipatthana takes you all the way to awakening itself, all the way to enlightenment. Not before samadhi, but after samadhi. This is where the deep insights happen. So, just to summarize for you very briefly the things I kind of have been saying tonight. Remember, it is not mindfulness that leads to mindfulness. It is kindness and right view that lead to mindfulness. Meditation is not really to be done in daily life. The purpose of mindfulness in daily life is to ensure that your conduct is pure. That is the purpose, not just to be mindful in its own right. Keep your mind in check. Keep your actions in check. Remember that meditation is much more than mere observation. Meditation is also about looking back on things, understanding things from the perspective of a higher point of view, from the perspective of things ending, ceasing, completely being out of control. That is where the real insights and deep understandings of the nature happens, which means you don't really have to go through pain meditation to understand that pain is bad. You can do that from a higher perspective. And then finally, all the meditation can be done through mindfulness of breathing. That mindfulness of breathing eventually becoming samadhi, and eventually you take that samadhi deep enough and you then watch the nature of existence. That is where awakening itself can happen. Okay, there you are. That is the talk for tonight. Okay, so any questions or comments on tonight's talk? Are we allowed to have microphones still, or is that illegal now, according to the rules and regulations of the WA government? No microphones at Dhammaloka Center. Okay, anyone here want to say anything? Everyone here just completely... Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Bill Prince, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to take some questions from overseas. And some of them are from location withheld. Not sure what that is, but that's not here, presumably. Maybe it's from here, location withheld, I don't know. Anyway, we have the first one. This is from Poland. Hello, Poland. May I please ask you to tell us what your approach to the situation in Ukraine? I'm trying not to send negative thoughts to the invader, but it is so difficult. Yes, well, I try to touch on that in my talk very briefly, because obviously it is very topical right now. But the answer is very simple, and the answer is that this is the nature of human existence. The problem is that we are deluded about it. We think that we should be able to live without war. We should be able to live without aggressors, without invasions. But actually, that is not how the human realm works. The human realm always is going to have these things. Why is that? Well, one of the reasons is because we live in the world, the sensory world is inherently limited. Yeah, we're always chasing after the same things, chasing after the same relationships, chasing after the same pie in the world. The economic pie is only so large. If the rich people get more, the poor people might get less, and these kind of things. Yeah, so we're all chasing after the same thing because the external world out there is limited, and because everyone wants more of the external world, there's guaranteed to be clashes in that world. So that sensory world is inherently problematic, inherently violent, inherently there's always going to have clashes in that world. So this is a very profound insight, because once you start to see that, it makes the whole world outside less interesting. When Ukraine gets invaded by Russia, you think, oh yeah, I expected that, yeah, of course it happens. It's not because the Russians are particularly evil or anything like that, it's just because this is the nature of existence, yeah. One day it's going to be someone else, and we think maybe we live in Perth is far away, it's really safe. It's really safe until it's no longer safe, yeah. Suddenly one day it's not safe anymore, because I don't know what might happen, but things are going to happen, guaranteed, yeah, even in this kind of far away corner of the world, which is kind of great. It's great to live in a far away place. But still, trouble is going to come here as well. You can't avoid trouble. It's absolutely integrated into the human realm. So don't think of it as, the reason why you get upset with this is because somehow you think of these Russians as the aggressors, and then you personalize. The moment you personalize it, that's when you get upset with things. But it's not really personal. This is just phenomena in the world happening as they must happen when the world is structured the way it is, with greed, with ill will, with delusion. As the world is. Actually, the meaning of this is not that I should get angry. The meaning of this is that I should turn away from this because it is inherently problematic. I should move on to the spiritual path. It's the only refuge we have. You will never find a solution in the world outside. The solution is to be found inside. This is the beauty of the spiritual path. Does anyone else's body go heavy, almost like it is melting, the quieter your mind goes? I really don't like the feeling whenever I become aware of it. Gives me a little jolt and makes me want to stop. The body going heavy, meditation is very varied, and meditation really is the perceptions that arise in the mind as you meditate vary enormously from person to person. All kind of perceptions can arise in a mind that is peaceful, and very often it's just created by the mind. And heaviness is it may be one of those mental creations that is happening inside of you. But ideally, if your meditation really takes off, if you go on a meditation retreat or something like that, then what you will find is that actually your body becomes lighter usually. If your meditation really goes well, your body becomes very light before it sort of disappears altogether. So the heaviness may just be a kind of preliminary thing, preliminary going through, maybe the mind becoming a bit dull maybe, or a bit restless, or you have to go through something before you come to a brighter state on the other side. And that may just be that you have to go through that kind of heavy state, so to speak. But if you keep on going, it goes well. My prediction is that you will find brightness and lightness on the other side. From Indonesia, dear Ajahn, how do we really stay in the present moment, even if it feels unbearable, chaotic in the mind? Some people are easy to enjoy present and meditate, and some are not. Is it because of karma? Is it because of karma? Forget about why. People often want to know why this is happening to me. Oh, I lost my job. Why? Why did I lose it? Is it because of karma? Don't know if it's because of karma. Who knows? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it's because of karma, because the other person is evil, or because you made a mistake or whatever. It's kind of completely irrelevant. The point is that this is what life is like. Forget about that. We think that if we can sort of blame it on karma, then we can have a solution. Actually, it doesn't really solve anything if you blame it on karma. So try to enjoy your meditation. Try to do a kind of meditation which is enjoyable. Make it shorter if you find it hard to meditate. Don't meditate for too long. Use some kind of guidance to get you going. The voice of Ajahn Brahm, if you like Ajahn Brahm's voice, and sometimes Ajahn Brahm's voice can be really powerful, if you listen to it in the right way. Or the voice of someone else that you enjoy to get you in the right mood for meditation practice. That can be very, very helpful, because some people have the spiritual feeling about them. Ajahn Brahm is one of those people. When Ajahn Brahm is in the right mood, it's one of the most kind of powerful feelings. At least in my mind, when it gives a teaching at the monastery during the rains retreat, the hall is absolutely quiet. Ajahn Brahm is almost like completely still, and you just become peaceful just by listening to what he has to say. And that is the power of spiritual qualities. Meditate at the right time, maybe in the morning when you are fresh. Your mind is reasonably fresh after a long night, good night's sleep. Don't go on the internet just before you go to bed. Have an hour before you go to bed with no internet. Turn it off. Lock your phone away. Don't have access to that lock afterwards. Give the key to someone else. Tell them, don't want to see that mobile phone before tomorrow morning. Do something that you know you can't access it, because if you can access it, you will. The temptation is too high. So be wise about why it is that your mind is so, all of these things. And then hopefully you will find a kind of meditation that you will enjoy. But don't do it just because you have to do meditation because you are a Buddhist. Because if you have to do it, you don't enjoy it, again, you are destroying the potential of the path. So then what you have to do is work more on the first 6 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Can you be more kind? Can you have more compassion? Can you look at other people and see their good qualities more? All of these kind of things. That is what you should be doing. And the more you do of that, the more ready the mind will be for meditation. There are people in the world who had bad experience in meditation, and the main reason for that is because they're not really ready. And this is the problem with extracting meditation from the rest of Buddhism and saying meditation is a path in its own right. Well, if it doesn't work, what do? You don't have any recourse to any further teachings. Well, the Buddha said, if it doesn't work, just try to be kind. This is something everyone can do, try to be more kind. So just go back to those first 6 factors instead. Be more kind. Be kind as much as you can. Be kind all the time. Take every opportunity to do acts of kindness, even if other people think you are silly sometimes. It doesn't matter if other people think you're silly, as long as you're doing the right thing. And if you keep on contemplating in this way, you'll find a way forward. Sometimes memories from the past, some intimate scenes with my ex-partner come up during meditation, and this disturbs me a lot, and I feel bad about myself. How can I meditate better? Yes, well, the reason why these kind of things come up is because you are thinking about something that you think is more fun, more interesting than meditation. You're probably not enjoying the meditation enough, so these kind of sensual thoughts arise instead. So how can you avoid that? Well, basically by trying to enjoy the meditation more. Shorten down the meditation, do shorter things. Have some guidance during your meditation. Listen to someone's voice. If Ajahn Brahm is talking in your ears, you will be afraid of having sensual thoughts, right? I can't think this. Maybe Ajahn Brahm is listening. Gee, this is scary. So you'll be a bit worried about those sensual thoughts if Ajahn Brahm is right there. Or whatever. There's always ways around this. The other thing is to remember the limitation of those sensual thoughts. The sensory world, the whole sensory world, sensual world is interlinked. So the fact that the sensory world outside is problematic, there's wars, there's COVID, there's pandemics, there's climate change, there's what have you, there's people dying, there's all kind of things going on, bad things in that world. Well, this ordinary sensuality that we enjoy in everyday life, whether it's relationships or food or whatever, all that is interlinked with that. It all comes as one package. So if you understand that whole world is dangerous because actually it is full of conflict and problems, you may be able to let go of those sensual thoughts a little bit more. But be gentle with yourself. Understand that it's quite hard to let go of the sensual world. It is one of the most difficult things. It's one of the things that make monastics disrobe very often, because that world is very hard to let go of. So don't expect very quick results with this. It takes time to overcome these things. Be gentle, keep on investigating. meditate in a way that sort of supports your ability to not think about these things, and gradually you may overcome it. More important is to overcome anger and ill will, because it's far more destructive than sensual things. Ajahn Brahmali, can you chant for Ukraine? I'm from Poland and they are my neighbors. I try to see good in people, but it's so hard to find something good in Putin. Yeah, remember Putin himself is conditioned. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's blind, he's walking around in darkness, he's creating enormous amount of suffering for many people, but probably much more suffering for himself. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen to Putin in the future? Especially when you take into account the Buddhist ideas of many lives. Someone who is bad gets very bad results. That's the reality. And Putin is blind. He's walking in darkness. He doesn't know what he's doing. He too deserves compassion ultimately, even though he may have made some mistakes. The best thing is not to judge anyone. The best thing is to have compassion all the way around, and then you're doing the right thing. But I'm sure the monastery will probably do some chanting for Ukraine. I can imagine that happening. And we'll get Ajahn Brahm as well on board, because Ajahn Brahm will give the extra blast to Ukraine. So there you are. Last question for today, I believe. Oh no, jeepers, you have really kind of put it in there. So please feel free to leave at any time, of course, because there's a few more questions here, 3 more questions to be precise. Dear Ajahn, I'm experiencing the craziness of the mind in a very intense way. I feel like I need liberation and there is an urgency. Any advice? I'm not sure exactly what you are saying now when you experience the craziness of the mind, whether you mean the mind is out of control while you meditate. I did talk about that just before a little bit. If you feel the mind is out of control while you meditate, well then maybe be careful not to take that too far, because this out of control mind may, sometimes people go nuts in the meditation if they take it too far. So be gentle with yourself. Make sure your meditation works in the right way. It's supposed to make you more peaceful, more gentle, more calm, more kind as a person. Then meditation is working in the right way. So if that's what you mean, then be careful. If you mean that you understand the craziness of the mind more in the kind of general sense that the mind is kind of out of control, well then good on you, because that of course is very much true. The mind often is crazy in the sense that it has weird ideas and it does weird stuff. And that is kind of an insight into the mind, to see that you are not really in control. There's all these causes and conditions that are in control of the mind, and the mind then, follows along those causes and conditions. So that also is an insight into the inherent suffering of existence. The mind we're not in charge of our own minds. Our minds are held by bad habits from the past, by the conditioning of the past, by the programming that we have laid down in that mind in the past. We are trapped by that, and that is maybe what you are seeing. So it depends a little bit what you are talking about here. One of them, you have to be careful if you're feeling crazy in meditation. Step back a little bit, because it can be problematic. But if it's a more general insight into the nature of reality, then it's probably a good thing. So use this as grist for the mill and to take you forward on the path in whatever is happening there. What do you do if a loved one says horrible things and you bottle it up and then explode at them? Then they call you hysterical. That's really unfair, isn't it? You really try your best to kind of hold it back, and then they call you hysterical. Well, that's really, really unfair. Life is unfair. Don't get upset because life is unfair, because life just is unfair, unfortunately. So what do? You instead of bottling it up, you say, darling, listen, please don't say horrible things to me. Say nice things to me. Say, I love you. Say, it is wonderful to have you as a partner in life. Here are a couple of roses for you because I like you so much. Give me a kiss on the cheek. Please do that, partner. Then we can have a really good relationship together. So when you are feeling in a good mood, take them aside and you give them a hug and say, well, let's treat each other like this, Then we have such a beautiful thing together. So just be open. Try to talk about problems. Problems are usually resolvable if we talk about them and communicate. don't bottle things up too much, because quite rightly, as you say, then you end up exploding. It makes things worse, yeah, and then you become hysterical on top of it. That's really bad news. So that's what I would recommend. And then see if that can make things work better. And last question for tonight. I have a question concerning contemplation of inner organs. Are there any examples of meditators who actually can become aware of them directly? They say ancient Taoist women meditators were aware of the fetus when it was a few weeks old and gained medical knowledge. All right, okay. That's interesting. I mean, the mind is an interesting thing, and the awareness of inner organs, there are ways you might be able to do that with the mind. It can be just like a visual thing, but that visual thing can be so powerful that it feels like you're seeing things for real. Can also be possible, if your mind is incredibly powerful, to actually see your own inner organs. Yeah, maybe possible. So these things may be possible, but this is not what is meant in the Satipatthana Sutta, because Satipatthana is meditation leading up to samadhi. You haven't even got to samadhi yet, and samadhi is required to be able to see these organs in the way you are describing here. So this is not what is meant in the Satipatthana context. There we are talking about imagination and recollection of things that you have learned before. But yes, I think it is astonishing what the mind can do if it really is trained enough. But everything at the right time and right place. Okay, everyone, that's all for today. So let's pay respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha.